Welcome to the City Rooster Forum. I am Ken Kasner, and today we're going to go on the key phrase of progressives and how they infiltrate people, meaning how you can see the signs of it. Well, not that whole key phrase, just the signs of progressivism. And what I'd like to talk about here today is the notion that people go upon people and they have conversations. We have lots of conversations with people. We like to think that people are more open-minded. At an earlier time, in my life particularly, I'm in my 60s now. Earlier in the first 40 or 50 years of my life, people were a lot more open-minded, especially in the 20th century. Okay. Nowadays, it is 2026. And because of that being 2026, you notice that a lot of people are very, very antisocial, very closed-minded, very restricted of what they're willing to talk about. And the reason why is either because of fear or because of condensation. First of all, it is very obvious when you talk to a socialist liberal, like the ones that are causing all this trouble for ICE and putting their own lives in danger, as well as other people's. Some of them paid agitators, but even regular people on the street that don't get involved with this trouble. They do terrible things, or they may be living like us, but they may not be very easy to talk to. And they say certain things that they're the signs that they believe that they really, really find credible of what the left says. So you can't talk to them about really anything. And it's not just politics. But even if you're not talking about politics, they may think that you are. So a lot of times people who say, oh, I don't want to talk about politics, I don't get into politics. Well, that's just the problem here. Many people will take anything at all that they don't like, and try to pretend that you're talking about politics just as a way to look for an excuse to not talk about it. So what's been replacing the phrase of, can we change the subject, or I don't want to talk about it, or just cutting you off at some point, okay? Some of the most extreme rudeness that we've ever seen are people that just don't want to talk about certain things. Now, politics, okay, is not the same as political drama. We've replaced old school drama with new drama, and they like to use it on politics. See, people don't watch old soap operas used to see on TV as much now. The ratings have gone down for those, such as General Hospital or One Life to Live, or some of those. There was an old soap opera that went off the air called Secret Storm, etc. People, besides getting lazy and besides losing interest in things, also have just not creative anymore. So the only way they can find some color in their life is with drama. So they use it on everything that they're not interested in. And since the liberal movement has been vulnerable to change, any change that they want, even if they don't know what it is, and most of the time they don't, they have a search for drama. And they confuse politics with political drama. So they don't know anything about politics. They just say, I don't want to talk about politics. I don't want to get into politics. But what they're really thinking of is political drama. They don't know what politics is when they say that. because people who do just don't want to get involved with their country. They've gotten lazy, and besides being too lazy to work, some who do work are too lazy to actually look into certain things and understand them for what they are. So a lot of those former fact checkers on social media were just like that. They would take something that you didn't intend to be the subject they're thinking of, and they twist it into that. They twist your words. And they try to disguise it sometimes. They try to say, oh, well, this person is a freak, or they're crazy, or they have Trump derangement syndrome. All those things that they say are just drama, not mental illness. People are trying to dress things up as mental illness to excuse people who don't want to take responsibility. And that's wrong. Now, Trump derangement syndrome, for example, is a very common form of drama. It's not mental illness, as some people may have mistaken it to be. MAGA is just a form of a movement for people who want to save their country. It's not drama, but people want to dress it up as drama and say that these type of people are dangerous. Well, they say that because they want drama. And drama is the main force behind people who are either lazy or not creative or bored with their lives, or they just want something that they can hate, that they can complain about, that they can criticize for absolutely no reason at all. I always say, if you criticize something, have a case behind it. Say why it's wrong. Explain yourself. And people who hear this criticism should ask questions and not just tell people, prove it. Because when they say prove it, it just means that they are closed-minded and they don't want to hear about things that may not be as colorful to them. It may not fit their imagination. And that's what we have lots of times. People who use the cop-out line, oh, I don't want to talk about politics, when they don't know anything about politics, or they have a craving for drama, or they just don't want to know what's going on or follow up what's going on, or they don't care about their country altogether. And our country is important to us. Or any of those things, one or more of those things. And because of this, we have lost a lot of support for our country. It's not just 10%, it's not just 20%, it's more. How much more? It's hard to say. It's hard for anybody to say. Now, people who get involved with their country know what's going on. They know the difference between politics and political drama. This is why people vote for these cockeyed people in leadership. We have people in leadership that are such kooks. How did they get into office? They didn't get into office with just money. They got into office because people don't pay attention to who they vote for. Now, I was always against the party system. I'm an independent. I don't vote by a party. I vote for the candidate with a more sensible platform. But a lot of people don't do that. They either vote by party, which is the most common way, or they just don't even pay attention to who they vote for. Many people who voted for Zoran Mandani to become mayor of New York City were not paying attention to what was going on and did not pay attention to who they voted for. It wasn't just illegal aliens that voted for him. It wasn't just people living in New York City that were born outside the country that voted for him. It wasn't just Somalis. It wasn't just liberal women. It was also people that really believe that capitalism is bad for us. And besides not knowing about what's going on, they don't know about capitalism. Capitalism, which I'd like to get into a little more than I did in my last video that I talked about it, is 1,500 years old, about. There's not like one day where it was announced that we're just going to have capitalism. Man has been around for approximately 500,000 years. Some say 300 or 400,000. Who knows? It's a long time. That's hundreds of thousands of years. 1,500 years is not very long compared to how long man has been around. Written history was 25,000 years old, but capitalism itself is about a millennium and a half old. Okay? So let's say about 1,500 years old. And capitalism was the greatest thing to happen to man, because before capitalism, we didn't have anything. Communism is a master-servant system where those people who are very rich and have everything are masters, or so they think. And those people that are poor and have nothing are servants. And that you had to servant the master. So when they talk about slavery, they don't actually know the history of it. And when they fight slavery, they're fighting communism. But they don't know that we're not a communistic country. We're not supposed to be. We weren't formed as that. We were formed as a capitalistic country. Capitalism, you take capitalism, and as defined, it is the public access to the open market. That means that everybody is supposed to have equal access to everything. Everybody have a chance to work. Everybody be able to eat. Everybody be able to have an access to become wealthy. It's not being wealthy that's against capitalism. It's how you get the money. If you work for it. If you're just a hedge fund manager, or you just are in Congress and you have open tips on the stock market, and you obtain the money illegally, and you're rich, well, how did you get the money? So instead of paying attention to people just because they're rich, pay attention to how they got their money. If they worked for it and they earned it, like Elon Musk, and they deserved it, then you have to credit them, because a lot of rich people that worked for the money and earn the money are the ones that are helping us. They're keeping these free programs open, and they don't want to. People that did not earn the money, that just got this money illegally through, an open tip on the stock market, or through somebody else, or just funneled money over illegally, or got it illegally from the government. Those are the people that are not willing to share it, because they only care about themselves. And people who care only about themselves don't want to share. They don't want to help people. They're not community people. They have bad judgment over who's a criminal and who's not. And then they don't even care about their family. They're very selfish. They want to dumb down their children and any children that their children are around. And that's why a lot of socialist leftists, not all leftists, but socialist leftists, depend on the support of stupid people. Because if they keep them dumbed down, they can get them to do anything they want. Now, originally, before capitalism, servants were smarter than masters, because they did all the work and they learned from working. And that's why capitalism is so great. But now we have a situation where they're trying to dumb down people and reverse back to capitalism in order to save that capitalistic lifestyle that many a man fought and worked so hard for, even in war. We need to protect it. And we need to have more pushback than we already have against all of these leftist agendas. Not just in the U.S., but in other countries too. And if we look at other countries and see what's going on, we can see that the U.S., we're on our own. We're not going to have help from other countries. Our adversaries aren't going to help us. Our allies aren't going to help us. Or so we think they're allies. We don't know, because they've never helped us. They've never done anything for us. The U.S. is sending money overseas to other people. We think we're the world's policeman, but we're not. We're just the world's sucker. The U.S. will never be the world's policeman. So to avoid being the world's sucker, we have to start to say all of this money is for Americans. It's for American might. It's for American military. We have to protect ourselves. We can't just try to put an image around the country. We can't just try to expand democracy. We can't do it anyway. You can't make other countries another regime. You can't make them what you are. Sure, there's a lot of good people that are suffering in these countries, but we can't change that. We can't do anything about that. We're not in a position to do anything about that. And we don't know why we're in this situation, but it's very easy to explain if we take insight. And a lot of people don't like what's going on, and many people have made the mistake of either in liberals taking to the progressive movement thinking that it was a good change, or like conservatives turning a blind eye to it all. And as a result, that's why we are where we are now. And if we don't have more pushback against the left, we're going to keep on reverting towards this. By 2100, people who are alive at that point, I probably won't be, but people who are alive at that point will see no more capitalism. Everything will be gone. It'll revert back to a communistic, socialistic system. And socialism is basically a step towards capitalism. So don't assume propaganda. A lot of people also who say, I don't get into politics, but don't know the difference between politics and political drama. Those people were captivated by propaganda, and propaganda made them think that they learned everything they needed to know. They still believe the local news. You don't listen to the local news. The local news is always wrong. They're wrong about everything. They're wrong about sports. They're wrong about weather. They're wrong about everything. The only thing you can find out from the local news is that something happened. The details of it, you're not going to get right if you just depend on the local news to tell you. And that's what happens here. And that's why we are in a situation where we go by propaganda. You can't trust the legacy media. People always say you can't trust the legacy media. Why can't you trust the legacy media? Because they're not the media anymore. They're just tabloid television. The media have now moved gradually towards podcasters. Okay, probably better podcasters than I am. I'm not even news. I'm just commentary. And I see this for what it is. And people don't talk about certain things. People shouldn't be afraid to speak their mind. You shouldn't be afraid. If you're a law-abiding citizen and you're a patriot, you shouldn't be afraid to speak your mind. The people who are not afraid to speak their minds are the people that listen to propaganda. That's why it's become so loud and so popular. Because only the people who speak their minds, only the people who have capitalized from free speech are people that follow fake news and propaganda. The people who are patriots need to speak up more. There's a good reason why I have an American flag in back of me. Because that American flag says something. It doesn't say that the leftist socialists should speak up. It says that patriots should speak up. People who have worked so hard to make a society that other people are trying to tear apart. Now, if this continues also, we're going to lose a lot of it. The whole thing, the whole movement about you own nothing and be happy. Well, that was started by people who are communistic. And people who are socialistic have taken to that. Now, we have leaders in this country, the kooks that were in office, they think that they're going to get the upper hand. They think that they're going to become a master when communism takes over and we lose our capitalism. But when that happens, these leaders are going to be in for a very unpleasant surprise. They're going to become servants too. Everything that they say that they're trying to talk against, and everything that they say they're trying for, it's not going to turn out. They're always wrong. Zoran Mandani is a perfect example of what we should look at and think to ourselves, well, we better not have this. This should be the last straw. Sadly, it probably won't be. But Zoran Mandani should be the last straw. Now, Trump has been villainized, and he has had character assassinations done for him by years that started by the left. And so many people have taken to it and believe it like he's really a criminal. He's not. The fact that he's actually stepped up and given up his retirement and almost lost his life so that he could wake other Americans up says a lot about him. When people say he's racist, they can't explain why. They don't know why. That's because it was drama. It was drama to hear. Now, Elon Musk, who is a liberal and still believes in free speech, because liberals that don't take to the progressive movement and haven't been a victim of the progressive movement see the reality of how important it is to keep our country a capitalistic country. And we need to, as I've always mentioned, take more pushback. And keep in mind that I say, and I can't say this too many times, politics is just a noun variation of the word policy, which means leadership, which is what government was supposed to be for. And if more people understand that, then people will understand reality and understand the importance of getting involved and not saying cop-out lines like, oh, I don't get into politics. I don't want to talk about politics. I don't want to talk about religion, all that kind of stuff. They say that. Those are cop-out lines. Those are people that don't want to admit that they need to be more patriotic and need to be more concerned about their country. And as a result, they need to understand what's going on. I'm Kenny the Rooster. Like, share, and subscribe this video. Share it with your friends.